I understand a lot of people do not want to see GameStop leaving the marketplace. I get it. A lot do like shopping there, buying their games, but we do have to face reality. It is tough times for these guys. Things are not looking good. So today what I want to do is take a look at some of the current news that's going on with these guys. What are they doing in the future? Things that have happened in the past that have led up to this, and just kind of give my views and opinions on this stuff. I would also like to hear your guys' thoughts after you watch this video, and perhaps in a follow-up, I will reference some of your comments. I do read them all. But if I was a man who was a betting man, I'd be willing to bet that GameStop will be filing for bankruptcy sometime in the near future, just because a lot of this information that's going on. So taking a look at this article that just came out from the Motley Fool, right? Everything goes wrong for GameStop. The lead up to next-gen game consoles is only making things worse. And that is the truth. So we have this period of time right now where people are kind of tapering off of current-gen consoles. Sure, there's a lot of stuff still coming out. People will be buying things, but we already know that the next generation is coming very soon. So sales, the retail sales do start dwindling down. That goes for every aspect of, what GameStop does. Used game sales, new game sales, digital sales, hardware sales, accessory sales. Everything goes down when this transition period occurs. So right now, what they're looking at in this article, they're stating an already bad year just got much worse for the video game retailer GameStop. Their second quarter report was a train wreck. Another gigantic write-off erased the remaining goodwill on the balance sheets. That is nuts. So let's take a look at some of this stuff. Sales are falling off of the cliff. So they have quarter two 2019 and comparing it to quarter two 2018. Wow. So 2019, their quarter two, their revenue was $1.286 billion, down by what they did last year, the same time period. Not by a lot, but it's still there. Now, this is the thing that really sucks, is their GAAP, which is their generally accepted accounting principles. Essentially what it is it's just accrual accounting. So as the revenue is made, it is reported. So it's kind of like real-time, reporting. Every time money is made, it's an instantly reported type of thing. I know there's a lot more to it than that, but that's essentially what it is. So we kind of get a real-time number here. These brackets right here, that means a loss. That's not a good thing. That's a loss. If there were no brackets, that would be a positive. That would mean that they made money. Their net income is negative $415 million for quarter two 2019. Insane. The previous year, the same time period, was about 25 million negative. What? That is nuts. Total sales slumped 14.3% year over year. So taking a look at this stuff, they do have everything categorized, new video game hardware sales, what everything made. So you kind of got to look at what is their strong point, and that's pre-owned and value video game products. So essentially either, value video game products, I would imagine is like their branding, and then just pre-owned, used trade-ins, that kind of thing. They're down on that. The change year over year, they're also down on their strongest part that they do. They're down 17.5%. Their next biggest one is new video game sales. That's also down by a smaller margin, 5%, 5.3. So it's not looking good. They state the steep decline in new hardware is understandable. Exactly. Both Sony and Microsoft have begun to unveil details about their next-gen systems. The slump in pre-owned sales is the biggest problem, as that category carries a gross margin of more than 40%. They always make more money on used game sales. I know we can go into lots of conspiracy theories with these guys, and I believe some of them, them having new games and selling them as used, that kind of thing. There's been a lot of things that have been talked about that over the years, but that's where their biggest profits come from, is used game sales. That's been the strongest thing that they've been into. It's funny. These guys have Game Over right here. Wow. Comparable store sales, down a low teens percentage, down 5 to 10%. So with all this stuff happening, they've been closing stores. They've also announced that they will be closing 180 to 200 stores this year Could this be the beginning of the end? This is WindowsCentral.com with this article. They have some interesting facts here. They're going to close around 200 stores by the end of this year. The holiday season, that's where we're entering right now, is the holiday season. They're going to be closing around 200 stores. Obviously, these stores will be the least profitable stores. Maybe locations where there's GameStop on one corner and then 3 blocks down the street there's another one, or maybe ones where I have seen as well, like there'll be a mall, and you'll have a GameStop in the mall, and then across the street from the mall there's another GameStop. Like, I don't understand that. But that's where they're at. So I have taken some notes. I've looked into a lot of the stuff that they've been doing. And we've talked about a lot of this over the past couple years, like their issues with their CEO. It first started with the CEO in January of 2018 resigning. Now, I don't think his resignation had anything to do with where GameStop was at the time. Sure, they were struggling still, but he had medical reasons, and unfortunately later he did pass away because of that, but he resigned due to those issues. And at that time, they gave another person who worked in the company the interim CEO position, so like a temporary position. So then in February of 2018, they did get another CEO, and this is the one I always laugh about, Michael Mahler. This guy stayed on the job for 3 months, and then the fool just left. He was like, screw it, I'm outie, I'm gone. Was it because he just saw this company going nowhere? Because that's kind of a strange thing. You're CEO for 3 months. I've seen it happen before, companies I've worked for and whatnot. It's not unheard of. Maybe a better position came up, or they just decided this wasn't for him. Who the hell knows? But the dude was in the job for 3 months and then bounced. He was out. And then the guy that was the interim CEO before him, which his name was Dan Mateo, he again took that temporary position until May of 2018. Shane Kim, they had this individual that worked for the company take over as interim CEO as well. And that's when we get to the point where we have the current CEO, George Sherman, who became the CEO in March. He has done a lot to where I don't necessarily want to say he's done a lot. I guess maybe he has with the termination of employment, stuff like that. He's been trying to restructure things, but he's been the CEO since March of this year. And then you have to remember too, kind of late last year in 2018, somewhere around there, I don't remember the exact timeline, they were looking for a buyer of the GameStop business. They stopped that search in January of 2019. We reported on all this stuff. Maybe they couldn't find a buyer. Maybe there was some kind of pressure to restructure. Who knows? But they had tons of issues. I just think nobody wanted them with how bad their books looked as far as the profitability goes. So with the reorganization efforts with George Sherman, this dude laid off 50. I mean, it comes from the top. It rolls down from the top. So if I'm saying this dude, it's just the company as a whole. Whoever the heck decides this, not always the CEO, maybe others as well, but you get the point. They laid off 50 employees, which included a lot of regional and district managers. And then in August, which we've just left August, they laid off another 120 jobs, another 120 positions, and that included half of the staff of Game Informer. They also, when we're talking about the stores being shut down, how they're going to be closing around 200 stores this year, this is not unheard of. They have also shut down 150 stores in 2017. You kind of got to get rid of that dead weight. So that's not always a sign that a company is struggling or not profitable. It's just you got to get rid of that dead weight. So this, them closing stores isn't always a sign of the end times. It's just when everything accumulated together with what these guys do, that's where it starts to cause some problems. 200 stores they state they have 5,700 stores worldwide. 200 is a small percentage of that. But it also states that they plan to close even more stores within the next couple years. So yeah, they do state that they're going to be doing the underperforming stores by the end of this year. They plan on closing additional stores within the next couple years. I would imagine within the next couple years is when they're going to be filing for bankruptcy. So as you see, they do talk about how so far they've had that net loss of $415 million in Q2, which is nuts. The last year, 2018, was a net loss of $675 million. What the hell? What are we on target for 2019? $1 billion of a loss? Quite possible. So there's a big reason for this stuff, man. I mean, when you really look at the climate of where we are in the world of gaming, it is nuts. I'm going to take a look at that stuff and show you guys some statistics concerning physical and digital sales and, you know, all that kind of stuff. I know a lot of us don't want to see the decline of physical media, but it is happening, unfortunately. It is nuts. But the one thing I do want to talk about is it kind of seems like GameStop over the years has set themselves up for this. So if we look at their history, it's kind of interesting. This is on their website. You can look at it. I'll put a link in the description if you guys want to read this. It states in 1984, GameStop originally was Babbage's. So a lot of people have said, oh, you know, GameStop bought Babbage's. No, they were Babbage's. So Babbage's was a small little software retailer. They acquired Software Etc., which formed Babbage's Etc. LLC. And then they were later, GameStop was sold to Barnes and Noble. So right here you see in 1999 they merged with Funko, which, oh my God, Funko Land was amazing. So then Funko changes to GameStop. So that's kind of where GameStop starts coming into play. GameStop was always these companies prior, but it wasn't until then when GameStop really became a name that everybody knew. So by the early 2000s, that's when GameStop was becoming the name out there for everything. 2004, they spun off from Barnes & Noble. For whatever reason, they became their own entity from them. 2005, they acquired Electronics Boutique. So that's why a lot of places will have Electronics Boutiques instead of GameStops. I still occasionally see EB Games some places. Some of them haven't converted to GameStop, but they're the same damn store. They also list a few other things. 2008, they acquired Micromania, which was a France video game retailer. There's a lot of other little information here that they talk about, but it just doesn't end there. So they've acquired Software Etc., Electronics Boutique. They merged with Funko Land. There's tons of companies they've acquired or started. They acquired GeekNet, Rhino Video Games, Congregate, Spawn Labs, Impulse, Buy Mytronics, Micromania, Free Record Shops. They purchased a majority stake in Jolt Online Gaming. Some of these companies are foreign. They're not from the US, but these guys were trying to dominate worldwide. They also acquired Spring Mobile, which was an AT&T retailer, and we've talked about that in the past as well. They got a minority portion of Simply Mac, which was an Apple retailer. They acquired 163 Radio Shack locations, acquired 507 AT&T stores. They created spin-off stores as well off of GameStop. They had Movie Stop, which was for new and used movies, which if you remember in the early 2000s, they did buy like CDs and movies and whatnot at GameStop. They would sell used stuff. I remember going in there and trading stuff in, getting games. I was just like, how does this work? Like, this is magical. They also had a pop-up store called GameStop Kids, which was a kid-friendly GameStop. All they sold was, you know, kid-friendly games and, you know, whatever, just toys, whatever the hell they had there. It was just kid-friendly stuff. So they'd also acquired, what was it? GeekNet, which was Think Geek. So they've acquired a lot of companies. They were really trying to conquer the world with their sales tactics, the way they do their business. A lot of this stuff, yeah, sure, they kind of branched off with a few other ideas, but a lot of these things never worked. The mobile stuff, the cell phone stuff wasn't profitable for them. So all this stuff that's leading to the decline of what they do. And sure, there's been tons of controversies as far as used game sales about them opening new games and selling them used, the way they treat employees, all that kind of stuff. The root cause of all these issues, even the problems that I have had in stores, isn't from the employees. It's a corporate problem that trickles down. Corporate treats you like shit. You're going to, how are you going to react to that? Either you're just not going to care, or you're going to feel pressured to do things that maybe we shouldn't, maybe the customer wouldn't like, pushing things nonstop. Pre-order this, pre-order that, or lying to you. Like some of the issues I've had. Oh, you didn't pre-order this game? Well, I can't sell it to you. But if you pre-order something else, which would inflate their stats, you pre-order something else, I'll let you buy this game. It's like, come on, so they would use these sketchy tactics. And sure, were they dicks? A lot of these employees that were, doing these kind of tactics, were they dicks? Sure. But at the same time, I've been trying to look at it like, well, it's the pressure from above with the unreasonable expectations and stuff like that that has pushed these employees to do these things. And it's not just, the pressure from way above. It's, that all trickles down to the store management, regional, district managers, that kind of thing. People don't want to lose their jobs, man. So they're going to do what they're told, even if it's, it sounds kind of jerky. So that's just the way it was. But I think we may have looked at this in the past. I don't remember if we looked at 2018 statistics here. I'm pretty sure we looked at 2017 and below. But with where we're at right now, the 2019 trends, according to what we're seeing here, are definitely not going to be looking good. But I do want to point something out, because I know I've looked at this chart before, and I know other people have used this to talk about similar topics. This is a bit deceiving, because what we're looking at here is essentially percentage of games sold digitally and physical. And as you see, last year, physical games were down to 17%, digital were 83%. Is that a problem for people who like physical games? It may be, but it may not be as big of a problem as we think. It's a problem for GameStop for sure, though. But if you notice, there is an asterisk next to digital here, and that's going to be listed here, supplementary notes. Digital format sales include subscriptions, digital full games, digital add-on content. Most of the time, add-on content is not sold in physical form, so you only get it digital. And almost every damn game that comes out nowadays sells add-on DLC, right? And rarely ever physical. Sometimes they will do a later thing where they combine everything and sell it physical, but for the most part, that's where we're at. Mobile apps and social network gaming. Who the heck's spending money on social network gaming? Okay, I have no idea. But that percentage of digital sales is not that crazy. I mean, it's definitely declined over the years, but you have to look at it from the early 2000s, even 2009, which is 10 years ago, 80% physical, because not as many people were playing mobile games. Not as many people were playing, digital stuff. It wasn't as widespread as it is now. There wasn't as many different forms of hardware that could play digital media. So every year, technology advances, things become cheaper. Even if there was an abundance of things that could play digital games, maybe there wasn't as many developed as there are now. And maybe things were just not as cheap as they are now. Technology, winds up getting cheaper over time, right? So I think that's part of it. But yeah, it was a big percentage was physical then. And I mean, maybe we could do a deep dive in the next video looking at actual sales numbers, because I think that would speak volumes here. But for sure, physical sales are going down. But it's really going to be up to the console manufacturers, publishers, stuff like that, to maintain selling physical media. Physical media, it's a strange thing, because a lot of games nowadays for consoles that support physical media, there are tons of games that are released in digital only format. Some companies like Limited Run Games, they will get, the licenses to release certain games physical. A lot of times it's indie releases and whatnot that are digital only, but sometimes there's some big titles too that are only digital. So that all kind of plays into it. But for sure, physical media, I wouldn't say is dying, but there are a lot more interested, especially a lot of the younger gamers out there. Even looking at my own household, my kids, for the most part, it's kind of hard to say. For the most part, is that correct? They don't mind physical or digital. My kids have stated they prefer to have the actual release of a game, a physical copy, but if it comes down to it, they don't give a shit. They just want to play the game. They're not looking at the resaleability of a physical copy. They're not looking at, the tradability, sharing, that kind of thing. They just want to play the game. So I think a lot of the younger crowd is into that. Not as young, maybe older than the ages of my kids, But I think this generation, a lot of kids and young adults don't really care. You know, they don't like all that space being dedicated to games. They just want to play what they want to play, and that's it. And they're not really thinking about those other things. They're not thinking about collecting. They're not thinking about reselling stuff. They just want to play what they want to play. So that's one of the biggest issues, is that's digging into GameStop's profitability, because people are not buying physical games. They're not buying used games as much as they once were. Who the hell is going to go to GameStop to buy a digital code? Like, what is the incentive? If there was an incentive, then maybe. But when you can sit at home, turn on your PS4, your Switch, or your Xbox One, and just buy the game digitally from home for the same price it would be to drive to GameStop to buy the card with the digital code or have it printed on a receipt, why the hell are you going to waste your time? To me, that's more of an impulse buy now. That's like you go there to buy something. They're like, oh, did you know there's this DLC? You can buy this card. Oh, you could buy, whatever. It's an impulse buy or an add-on buy when you're actually at the store. But those are the things that's troubling for this company. And I for sure see the end of GameStop within the next few years. I don't see them lasting. I'm not sitting here saying in this video that I hope they go under. That's not what I hope. I just wish that it was still the abundance of options that we once had for physical games in stores like this. With GameStop acquiring all of the competition, essentially, across the world almost, it kind of put them in a weird place, them going outside of the box and buying other companies that have nothing to do with their core business, focusing energy, time, and money on those, aspects of the business that they want to do, the mobile stuff. Like, come on now. None of that stuff worked out. They should have been focusing on this business, seeing where the trends were going, see how to readjust, and they just didn't. They're pulling a Blockbuster here. Blockbuster had every opportunity, and things just went too late. I believe Blockbuster, they had the opportunity to purchase Netflix, but it was like a foolish idea to them, so they didn't. Netflix flourished. Blockbuster, they tried their own service, but it was too little too late type of thing. And it seems like it's going to be the same way with GameStop. I foresee physical, like, what is the service that's out there? GameFly, where you can rent games and they mail them to you. I never had good luck with that service. Yes, I've tried it, but I also know people who they don't buy games in the store. They use GameFly, and they're the kind of people that they just want to play one game for an extended period of time. They don't want to like buy 5 games every month and not have the time to play any of them. I know plenty of people, they'll buy 1 or 2 games, or through GameFly, like I said, they'll get 1 or 2 games and they'll just focus on that. And then if they decide, you know what, this game is worth it, I love this, they'll keep it. GameFly, you can just purchase the game outright for them for a discounted price. They send you the case or whatever, you're good to go. You can get another game to try out and see if you like it and play it for as long as you want. I don't know how much GameFly costs, but I foresee business models like that, getting a little, higher up in profitability. I've been seeing a lot more commercials for them as of late, and they kind of changed it up. If you notice, GameFly, they used to do commercials, and I know we're kind of going off in a different direction here. GameFly used to do commercials with people like my age, maybe a little younger. I don't see those stupid Western commercials, and they still do them, but now they do them with younger kids and teenagers. They're not doing adults. They're not doing the older guys, even though, it's still a piece of the market that they can get. They're trying to appeal to the younger crowd, because those are the ones who are getting their parents to spend that money. They're spending their allowances and their milk money for video games, that kind of thing. So I'm seeing like services like that booming. A lot of these companies are going into that cloud-based stuff. I know Apple's doing something pretty soon. Google is going to be doing their Stadia, which I just have a feeling that's going to flop. It's still too early to tell. We'll have to wait. But, there's so many different options that are coming up out there that how does GameStop stay viable in the marketplace right now? I don't buy games from them for the most part unless it's exclusive to them. And, that's just kind of the thing it is. I know we talked about companies they've acquired. They've also had a publishing company. I don't really know what went on with that. Game Trust Games Publishing to publish games. They partnered with some companies. So, I mean, that's one step in a direction, but what have they done with that? So if they can't change things around, if they can't restructure this business, it's just going to be a loss, man. The company's going to go bye-bye. So those are my thoughts on this really long video today. Really do appreciate you guys. Like I said, drop your comments down below. I may be doing a follow-up to this, digging into some of these statistics a little further. Maybe I'll reference a few of your guys' comments, give you a little spotlight on the screen and comment on your comments type of thing. So really do appreciate you guys. With that said, I will catch y'all next time. Peace out, bye-byes, and boom. Bye.